But if there is any of those things, aches or pains or low energy, then there is something wrong in your system. If you sleep for 7 or 8 hours, which is the ideal time, right? Then you should be fresh in the morning. That's a very typical sign for geopathic stress now as well.
Welcome to the Beautifully Broken podcast, brought to you by AmpCoil. I'm your host, Freddie Kimmel, and on this show we discuss the common thread survivors share after walking through the fire, the practitioners making a difference, and the treatment modalities that deliver healing back into the hands of the people who need it most. Witness the inspiration we gain by navigating the human experience with grace, humility, and a healthy dose of mistakes. Because part of being human is being beautifully broken. Good morning and welcome to the Beautifully Broken podcast. We have a very special guest here today. We have the founder of the Institute of Feng Shui and Geopathology, and we are going to get into some geopathic stress with Werner Brandmaier. Werner, welcome to the show.
Hi, Freddie. Thank you for having me.
Listen, I'm so excited because this is something in my pursuit down the path of health and wellness. I've touched on it between different researchers and scientific publications, but I've never had a chance to really dive into geopathic stress and what it means to health and wellness. So could you start us out and just introduce yourself to the audience and say a little bit about what you do and some of the science behind this field?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Austrian originally. I come from Austria, live here in the US nearly 20 years now. The topic of geopathic energy and geopathic stress is much more known in Europe. So it came up, it was originally researched a lot nearly 100 years ago in the 1920s and 30s in Europe. And it was very closely connected with cancer. So all the early research was done with cancer, because what people found was that if you have cancer, you should check the energy of your living space, of your environment. And even today, if you ask somebody on the street in Austria, their spouse or some of their relatives have cancer, what are you doing? Of course, they go the medical route, but on the alternative side, they need to check out the house, what's going on, because there's something which stirred this up. My background really is a technical background. I'm an engineer for electronics. I worked in the high-tech medical world for more than a decade with the nicest equipment you can imagine, computer tomographs, MRIs, an engineer's dream. And so on one hand, I saw what Western medicine is able to do, which is fantastic to some degree, and then also what it is lacking on a more chronic way, long-term way of health. Because if you have a car accident and you are a mess, they need to fix you up, and Western medicine is really good doing that. But if you have something chronic, if you have pain for years, they don't really know what to do. And then all these weird new illnesses come in, like MS and syndromes of all kinds, because they don't really know. Lyme disease now, where does it come? What is it? How is it connected? And cancer is just a pretty ultimate diagnosis, at the end of a usually a long term of some sort of suffering, right? And then I got really, on one hand, I grew up with this information. My father was a dowser, a water dowser, as a hobby. So when I was little, I walked around with him, and he dowsed where people should put wells in.
So can you break that down for the audience a little bit? Because I'm not sure everybody knows exactly what dowsing is.
Okay, dowsing is a way to connect with energy, and especially, or the most known one, is to dowse for water. So if you drill for a well, you just don't drill anywhere. You look first where is an underground water stream, or they call it a water vein.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are different methods, natural one with tree branches. This is what my dad did. But then more modern ones are rods, L rods. You can make them out of, I should have brought some um, coat hangers. Or what we use here is a German tool. It's called a tensor or a bobber. So you hold it with
Amazing.
one hand and it bobs on the other side, and it gives you different types of signals. So this is what I use when I check out a house. My
Mm-hmm.
brain. So this is because the energy is so small, the energy changes, that there is no electrical instrument. I would love to have one, of course. There
Yes.
is none out yet which just measures this like an electric field.
Mm-hmm.
But it affects people, it affects animals, it affects plants, so it affects nature. It's just more on a subtle level. And the big change in my personal life, everybody, when they start something, they often have a personal experience, is when my wife is American, and we moved over from Austria. We lived there for 10 years. And when we moved to America, she got our third baby, which was not planned at this time. And 2 weeks after the delivery, she was diagnosed with cancer out of the blue, right?
Mm.
And we led a pretty healthy lifestyle. We ate well, we lived well. If you're European, you have 6 weeks of paid vacation and health
Correct.
insurance and education is paid and all those things. So you have much less stress in your life than you usually do. And it hit us, of course, very, very hard. And I remembered all these research European, and then I found out that there is no knowledge here in the US, or very, very little. And I started to dive further into that, read all those books, talked to people. I had done Feng Shui for years in Europe as a hobby, because when we brought in a new MRI in the hospital, I used Feng Shui principles to design the rooms and the apartments. Was very successful with that. And the whole geopathic part is a European version of Feng Shui. Maybe I should explain Feng Shui in a sentence.
Yes, let's do that as well.
Feng Shui is an Asian Chinese way of describing the energy flow in your house and the energy in general in your space.
Mm.
But in the West, or here in general, it is often seen as a design art, and how to move your furniture around, or how to choose colors, which is part of it, but it's a really small part. The
Mm-hmm.
really important part is the quality of your chi. And this is what brings us back. If we step back, and this is where my engineering mind comes in, is what are we made out of, right? We're made out of really of pure energy. If you look at an atomic level, you see all those particles moving around, spinning around. That's all energy. So if we are a densified cloud of energy, and if two energy clouds come together, they affect each other,
Mm-hmm.
in two ways. Either they are attracted to each other, which we say that's resonance, or they are a pale pull apart of each other, which is dissonance, right? So if you look for a house, just as a simple example, and then you look a little bit about Feng Shui features of a house. If you look at a house, very often you don't even spend much time, you don't know much, you just see a house and you like it or you don't immediately, because your energy and the house energy overlap, and either you feel nice with it, and it might need some work, it might be not whatever the nicest appearance, but you like it, or you don't. It's perfect, it's brand, it came out of a, I don't know, difficult financial, so you get a really good deal, but somehow it feels weird, right? Because the energy just does not work together. So
Mm-hmm.
it's all about the energy, right? And this is where the geopathic part trains us to understand something which drains our energy. This is what geopathic stress does. It drains our chi, you know. And if you're exposed to this for too long, what happens is that your immune system gets weak. The cells don't function properly in the job they do. When they replicate, something goes wrong. So all weird things happen. And if you do this over a longer period of time, you just don't function well anymore. And
Of course.
sickness, right? You get sick. And so by understanding that, it shows you and it explains why it is so important to integrate this with all the other good work we do, right? Because nowadays we know, oh, we should drink a lot of water, right? We should stay away from alcohol. We should have a balanced diet, right? We know all those things. You should
eat your greens. Yes.
Yeah, you should see a chiropractor or another practitioner once in a while to massage you through, fix you, align you, realign you. What happens? You walk out the door of the chiropractor, you take your first phone call, because EMFs, electromagnetic frequencies from phones, have a very similar effect on your body than geopathic stress. Geopathic, pathologic, means sick making, geo like in geography, the earth, making natural appearing from the earth, right? But it's very similar to the whole electromagnetic topic. Electromagnetics are just man-made, but they stress out and mess up the cells in their functioning in a very similar way. So you take your first call from somebody out the door and your back is out again. And we can prove that. You can show this. There's simple tests to show this. When you check the hips, the iliac crest left and right, and you see how it's off, and you do some balancing work, and suddenly it's straight in and beautiful. You take a phone call, and the hip is out again. And when the hip is out, the shoulder goes out, the body compensates, and the whole mess starts again. So you have to see the chiropractor every day or every 3 days in order to keep you balanced. And you measure.
Not sustainable.
It's not sustainable, right? Exactly. And then at some point, once I got into that further and I understood and dug out a lot of research and papers and put them on different websites, we also, and that is the exciting part of it, we found that you can create energetic devices and tools where you can fix a situation, right? So we developed a device we put in the house, and it neutralizes all geopathic stress in a house, several floors.
Incredible.
And that is the exciting part, And
I want one of those.
believe me, from my analytical mind, right? It took me a long time to allow it to exist in my mind, right? Because I thought that is crazy, that is magic. so but it is, and it's an energetic device. It has a program on. It's like a computer program, just on an energetic level.
That's incredible. I have a question. So geopathic stress, where are what does this look like? Like if I'm looking at my home, let's say I almost had like X-ray vision. So would I see like like lines of like energy that were almost drawn through like a fault line? In my head, I'm imagining it like a fault line in the earth.
Right. So there are 3 types of. So we stay with the geopathic part, the natural appearing part of this problem, right?
Yes.
So there are 3 types how this can show up. Number 1, underground. It shows up above underground water streams. Those water veins. And I think the explanation is because water is an incredible memory element. It picks up vibration immediately. Okay. So when it runs through those natural occurring grid lines, which we talk in a moment, which are another part, it runs through there, it picks up this radiation and carries it with it and radiates it off on top. And this is what most dowsers, so there are a lot of dowsers, it's an old tradition in the US too, but very often, or a big part of them, are water dowsers. So I have pictures from North Dakota, 100 years ago, where people run out their first locomotive track, and you see water dowsers checking out the land at the same time. So
Incredible.
this is around for a long time. But a big focus always was and still is the water. But above those water lines, there is this negative energy. My dad felt it in his body when he got older, right? He sat down on a couch and said, "Oh, I can't sit here. There's underground water here." And he sat on another chair,
Wow.
which a normal person just would not notice. What you do notice is then that your concentration drops. You get tired. Your energy levels drop. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but before we get to some signs over there, so underground running water is one. Fault lines, as you said, when the earth cracks, very often more on the west coast, canyons. If I do a consult, I do consults live, of course, if they are somewhere in New England. I'm here up in Maine, but I do them also over distance. And then people send me their address, send me some pictures, and I check out their spot on Google Earth first. And I see, oh, it's a canyon going down somewhere. I know already, oh, likely issues there. So above those cracks in the ground, there is this type of energy as well. And the third one, and the most one we find anywhere, are grid systems, regular grid systems. And those grids, you can imagine, as you mentioned with your X-ray vision, they are like walls. They're just invisible walls. They have a thickness. So very often these typical, like a 30 feet grid is the one which bothers us most. So every 30 feet, there is another grid line, which in German it's called a 10-meter system. Every 10 meters, around. So 30 feet is the size of a house, right? 40 feet somewhere. So it's
Sure.
always somewhere in a house anyway. And it has like a thickness, and it really drops very sharply if you get out of it. So you get a few inches away from it, and it's gone. And within the grid, it's really high. So it has and these grids, in fact, are not just it's not just a net. It's a three-dimensional structure. So it's cube
Okay.
grid systems. But you would see them in your house. And mostly, that it's everywhere. Geopathic stress has a very important function in nature. Nature just didn't put
It sounds
something.
like it would keep nature moving.
Uh,
Sounds like there would be like a lack of stagnation. Like I'm imagining like a herd of sheep
right,
that are just
right.
kind of like pushed around the grid. They're like, no, 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 we're not stopping over there.
No. If you look at the Asian system of yin and yang, right? So there's a
Mm-hmm.
cycle of life. Okay, so at the beginning in spring, everything is expanding and growing and blossoming, and then it's retracting again. Okay, so in the circle of life, you have, on one hand, you have young energy, more chi. People always think Feng Shui, more chi, more chi, more chi in my house, my business, right? Everywhere. But on the other hand, there is the second part. Dust has to go to dust in order to allow a new cycle to start. And this is what geopathic stress does. It helps or accelerates the degradation process, the rotting process. Okay, so if there is no rotting, there is no space for new growth and for new life. Okay, so if you have a compost pile in the garden, you put it on a geopathic cross, it works twice as fast or even more, right? So if this is an energy which accelerates rotting, we don't want to spend a lot of time there, right? We don't want to sleep there. Sleep means a third of your life. So if you on this type of energy, where energy is taken apart, pulled down, like, your life force energy is just pulled apart all the time, which means, it's stressed out, and you get miserable and sick at the end of the day. So just to give you an idea, the standard estimation is it takes about 6 to 8 years before somebody gets sick, when they're exposed to geopathic stress. So it's not immediately.
Continually.
Although you notice the effect immediately, but that's the magic part of the self-healing of your body. It holds against this so long and so strong, with all it has, to keep your life, keep your life, keep your life. And at some point, it just can't do it anymore. And this is when the system cracks.
So this geopathic grid system, it's even though it can be a disruptor to our health and wellness, that it's essential for life on the planet and it's part of the magic, is what you're saying.
It's part of life, but not everything which is out in nature is good for us to consume. There's a lot of toxic mushrooms out there and spiders, and so we better should stay away from them. I don't know, they have a part in the play, but and wolves and many dangers in nature. So we should not spend a lot of time there. It really has to do with how much time you spend. So if you sit down at a table in your kitchen and there's this grid line running through and you have breakfast and lunch there, that's fine. It's like walking through a room and somebody smokes a cigarette and you walk out after 5 minutes, take a few breaths, and your
Yeah,
system
you're okay.
clears itself out, right? So that's the part of nature. But if you spend all your workday with a heavy smoker in the room, you might not like it. And after 5 years, you start to cough as well. Even you were not smoking yourself, but just for being exposed to this type of energy. And this is on the other hand, now if we think of the EMF part, this is the danger of it because there's no choice anymore. You always in a space with this heavy radiation of these electromagnetic fields around you, and it's just getting worse and worse, especially if you are in a city like New York.
Well, I know, it's funny you're mentioning this because I've been light reading on the fifth generation internet coming along, rolling out in some of these cities, Washington, D.C. area, big in Houston, Texas, Austin, obviously L.A. And I noticed it popped up on my phone. I got a 5GE. So it's a fifth generation evolution, which is an AT&T brand. Even though 5G isn't here yet, they're letting you know in this city that it's some, and I don't even think it's 5G. I was reading this article. They're like, well, AT&T doesn't even have the serviceability yet in New York City, but they're already ushering it in, that it's letting you know that it's coming.
Fake. It's fake.
It's fake, right?
Yeah, it's fake. But it's more get people used to it, but it's not real 5G yet.
Because when 5G comes, I'm running. I mean, I'm not going to stay in the city.
I give you a little secret, okay?
Yeah, please.
So check out the phones which come out now, right? Which do not have the full 5G capabilities. This is the last generation of phones you buy for a long time. For example, the iPhone, which comes out in September, the next generation, does not have 5G in there yet, the real 5G. So this is the last iPhone I will buy for, I don't know, till we figure out something else.
I mean, that's a whole nother podcast, 5G. I hate to take a lot of time on it, but can you just, because you are an expert in this, could you illuminate the audience on why someone wouldn't view 5G as a good thing? Because they can connect their phone to the refrigerator, to the microwave and the TV. And what's the problem with that?
The problem is that we are bombarded with electromagnetic fields from many sides. When my daughter lives in Brooklyn, right? So when I visited her, I wanted her to bring up her computer and just check how many Wi-Fi networks come up on her computer. And she lives in a 5-story apartment building, right? So 6 stories, something like this, not in a big tower. And we counted, I think, like 46 or 47 Wi-Fi networks come up. So it's not even just your network, but everybody around you contribute, and participates and sends out their chunk, their smoke, if you want to say so. And so it's a dense smoke cloud everywhere. The problem with generation by generation, so now we have 4G and sometimes we have to fall back on 3G. So it's not really, number one, that the 5G replaces the 4G, it's added on, right? Because if there is no 5G, the phone still has to work. So it works with 4G.
Yeah, exponentially.
But in the dense popularity areas, where they have 5G, it will add to 5G. What 5G does is it reduces the wavelengths to at least 1/10 of what we have now. So the wavelengths now is, I don't know, some centimeter, like half an inch or somewhere around that. And now then they talk of millimeters waves. So now it will be much, the smaller the wavelengths gets, the more it affects our body, because it gets into the size of body cells, and and the more the more something is of the same size, the more it resonates at this part. So it immediately affects the body. So another thing is this, we pretty well understand that microwave ovens are not great, right? So I tell everybody to throw their microwave out. Do you know why?
Well, I unplugged mine. It was permanently installed in my kitchen, but I just keep it unplugged.
No, unplugged is fine, of course, but
yeah,
because a microwave works, that it creates a frequency which makes the molecules vibrate, right?
Yes.
Friction of those molecules creates heat, and this
Correct.
is called heat up. But what happens with the friction when it heats up is that all these natural bonds of vitamins and within the food, they all break. So it's just a warm mess, but it has no nutritional value. So if you put organic food in your microwave, it's really waste
Cardboard.
Okay, so the microwave frequency range is about 2.3 gigahertz, right? This is exactly what 4G is. Okay, this is why if you have your phone next to your microwave and you turn it starts to crack on your phone. Sometimes you hear crack, 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 right? It's microwave frequency which bleed out, and into your phone and start to make weird sounds. Okay, so your phone is practically a mini microwave. Okay, so now you know that you should drink water. You have a bottle of water, right? You go to work, you throw your bottle of water and your phone together in your bag, right? Or you drive the subway where everybody else has a phone next to you anyway.
Everybody.
Or you drive a car, throw it on the seat next to you, throw the phone next to you, so it doesn't take 30 seconds to ruin the water, but you carry it around for half an hour. It's less power, but over time, your water is totally ruined. Okay, so this is what you do. So now the body needs to do all kind of tricks to get rid of this water, which you think is a good thing, because it's just a mess. It's not carrying any good information. We said water is such a carrier of information, right? No good information to start with, which most likely it didn't have when you bought it in the first place. And then it's electrically and energetically distorted and destroyed. So the body who wants natural, healthy water out of a fresh well, cannot really integrate it into the body cells properly, because it's destroyed. And so now we create an even smaller, more, the smaller the wavelengths, the more dangerous it gets. So
Correct. Yes.
X-rays are even much smaller, right? But then it starts to grill you from the inside out. So we got a little bit far away from geopathic stress, but
well, no, it's a good thing for people to hear and learn and be aware of. Again, it's like you can make these efforts to go to the gym every day and shop at Whole Foods and try to not shower in chlorine water. But if you're dosed all day, every day in your sleep environment, in your home and through your Wi-Fi, it's, I really like the image of if you're standing on 5 tacks, and you take out 3 of them and you still have pain walking, you've got more work to do. So it's just keep looking. So if you don't feel, I always, if you don't feel good, if you aren't feeling amazing in your body, if you aren't having a resolution of some of these symptoms, you've got more work to do with your health picture, period.
I give you another picture for that, because I'm thinking about this, of course, how to make a practical picture to explain this. Health for me, after all these many years, is a balance of energy. It's like a bank account. It's an energetic bank account, right? When we're young, usually we are born with a bucket full of money, right? That's what in homeopathy, this is called a constitution, right? If you have a strong constitution, you got a lot of money with you, you can spend a lot, When you're young, you do crazy things, are up all night, no problem. When you suddenly you turn 40, and with suddenly you have allergies. You never had allergies your whole life. You get pain in your shoulder, you get something in, you get all this, you get high blood pressure. Why is this? Because your account gets emptier and emptier over time, and at some point there is no more money in there. Because if you do good things, you eat well, these are deposits in your account, right? If you do yoga class, deposit. If you have junk food, it's a withdrawal. If you have a big ice cream, it's a withdrawal, or like a big can of soda. This means if there is enough money in there, you can have a nice steak and a glass of wine. There's no problem with that. You don't have to be a saint. The problem is if there is no money in there, because then you spend money which you don't have. And this is what you do. Once your account is empty and you have all these pains and aches, you go to your doctor. What does your doctor say? Your banker says, oh, don't worry, here's a credit card, use that. Right? So you keep up your lifestyle and spending money you don't have. And at some point, you hear the thing bankruptcy, right? Bankruptcy means, cancer. Okay, what are we doing now? Right?
Yeah.
So now we need to do something drastic in order to turn the ship around.
Yeah. No, it makes complete sense to me. And I just, I think we've lost the skill to listen to our bodies and see where am I close to bankruptcy? What does that feel like in the morning? Does it mean it takes me, 15 minutes before I get all the aches and creaks and cracks out of my joints before I feel like leaving the house? Like, does it mean, the first 2 hours are extreme fatigue? What does that mean to you when your bank account is running empty? And everybody's got to answer that question for themselves.
But if there is any of those things, aches or pains or low energy, then there is something wrong in your system. If you sleep for 7 or 8 hours, which is the ideal time, right? Minimum, then you should be fresh in the morning. Okay? That's a very typical sign for geopathic stress now as well. Okay, if you wake up in the morning and you barely make it out of bed, you can't move without a big coffee. What does coffee do? What does coffee do?
Jumpstart.
Yeah, but what does it do? It just screams, gets the adrenals going, right? Adrenals. So it's an alarm signal for the body. The body says, alarm, alarm, something is going on. And so this is how you wake up. And then after an hour, body says, oh, false alarm, it was just a coffee, right? So you need another one because now you get tired again. So if you are not naturally fresh in the morning, then there's something wrong in the system. Because the sleep is the major time where the body heals itself, and it only heals itself if you get into the deep layers of sleep, into the REM, rapid eye movement, into the deep REM phases. This is when melatonin is produced in the body, right? Melatonin is the strongest antioxidant. It's like 50 times stronger than vitamin C. Okay, so if you don't sleep well, you don't produce melatonin, you don't have antioxidants. You know the chain of events going on here, right?
Yeah.
But this only happens if you have a natural deep sleep, where you can recover, and then the body heals itself. And this is the normal cycle. You are active during the day, you do all crazy things. At night, you recover and you heal yourself, and then you're ready for the next day. If this does not work because geopathic stress does not let you sleep, it's just going down, going down, going down.
Werner, I want to go back to the geopathic stress, and can we get into some possible resolutions for people in their home? How are they going to mitigate some of these geopathic stress, indicators? Where when we're not quite sure where it's coming from? Is it better to look at what's happening in your home, or is it better to is there ways we can, like you mentioned before, a device where it can just kind of sanctify all the energy in your home?
This is a little bit the silver bullet, right? So we created, I'm serious, we created a silver bullet. You put this in your home and geopathic stress is gone. EMFs are only reduced. So EMFs are, if you have a Wi-Fi router in your house, you have your phone on your head, you are so directly on your personal energy field that by fixing the big scale of a house and trying to balance this does not work really. It works for outside sources, where if you have a cell tower, close or those things, because it creates an energetic shield around you. But let me first use another minute maybe to explain of typical symptoms or signs, or how you can find out
Please.
if something is wrong, right? So in nature, you just watch nature. In old times, people were aware of that. They watched animals, they watched plants, and saw, how does my plants grow here or there? Most plants do not grow well on geopathic stress. So I have pictures on my website and of all kind of crippled trees. If a tree grows crippled and he stands next to the same type of tree which is totally fine, why is this tree crippled? Because it's exposed to some energy and it cannot move away. So all it can do is like be really unhappy and do all kind of weirdo things. So in old times, when people looked for a place to put a house, right, they checked the land and saw, oh, there's nice growth of plants around there. This is where nowadays they just cut off the trees, put the house on, and where the crippled tree was before, this is just about below your bedroom now. Nobody remembers anymore. So to watch how vegetation grows, and there are specific plants who show this more and less than others. The other part are animals. Animals, like larger animals, all larger animals avoid geopathic stress by all means. So all farm animals like horses and cows and sheep and pigs, they all do not lie down on geopathic stress or avoid it if they can. So this is interesting as well. If you have a horse which is always sick in a box, you move it to another box, suddenly it's fine. Or if you have a cow which is on a chain somewhere and it always gets infections, the vet has to come, you put it on a different place in your stable, suddenly she's fine. So of course we don't have cows in the city, but we have pets, right?
Right.
Dogs avoid this like all the other ones. The only animals, larger animals, which are attracted to geopathic stress are cats.
Really?
Yes.
I hate cats.
I
am not a cat person. I don't hate. Hate's the wrong word. But
they're just strange, right? They're strange.
Our energy, it doesn't really blend. There's I want to put my hands up when a cat comes near me. I don't know why. And I'm fine with people having cats. It's just we've never resonated with me.
Look, that is a well-known fact among dowsers, right? Cats are called radiation seekers. So
really?
where a cat lies down, it's most likely that there is a geopathic grid there or a crossing there. I tell you, I have many, many cases where I go to a consultation and then I see, oh, these guys have 3 cats. And we sit down in the kitchen, they show me a floor plan, to get a. So where does the cat lie down here? And they show me 3 points, and you see the grid already. It's going through the house exactly. One place at the window, one place there. And it's on the grid.
The cats know.
No, they like the energy, and they are not affected by that, right? So they lick it off. You know that gets more weird. That they used in old times. I found something with my mom when my mom passed over a little while ago, and I cleaned up her place. I found a medical blanket made out of cat fur, which was sold by medical companies. Not now anymore, I guess, but
right.
20, 30, 40
this
years
sounds
ago,
like my worst nightmare, but keep going.
against arthritis, right? Arthritis is a typical response to geopathic stress from water. Okay, so arthritis comes from acidity, which is stored in your joints, right? And this is accelerated and affected by underground water. So people noticed when they wrapped themselves in a cat blanket that they kind of shield it or protect it. I mean, the medical science obviously acknowledged that, because otherwise they wouldn't sell those things in a medical store where they, sell.
Wow. It's like what people know and they don't know. It's amazing some of the things that we just knew and we had in practice that worked 40, 50, 60, 200 years ago, that now we're like, no, that's not cool anymore. We need something more high tech. But it was really this just pearl of wisdom that we had.
Just observation of nature, right? And
observation of nature.
Tuning into nature, right? And so follow your dog much more than your cat. Also, I also have to say, in those weird urban living environments, a dog often, or any animal often, loses the natural instincts a bit. I I had a cat who did, at a consultation, who did not lie down on geopathic stress, to the opposite. And I told the owner, I said, that's a little strange because we have a line there, but she doesn't like it. And she said, oh no, she thinks she's a dog, always. She always thought she's a dog. She's not naturally responding as a cat. And, she didn't act as a cat. So sometimes they lose this instinct. But animals,
well, we have humans who identify as different genders. I'm sure we can have animals that identify as different species, spiritually, energetically. I'm sure of all the
absolutely
many combinations of things in the universe that's very possible.
Absolutely. But the natural response of a dog is to not like the spot. And then I have people who tell me, oh, they're both on my bed, the cat and the dog. But then you look in detail, and the dog sits on one side where it's fine, and the cat is on the pillow where the grid line goes through. So they choose the spot.
So that's your really cheap way, is you can just have a bunch of animals in your house and you can see where everybody's chilling out.
I like to say that's an opportunity for business. Rent a cat.
Oh my goodness, you're blowing my mind right now. Oh, I think I just found my calling, my cat rental business.
And then you sell geopathic protection once you figure out.
Yes. Oh, these cats are going to help identify your home. It's going to be full of hair for a little while, but you're going to tolerate, and you're going to walk out the other side stress-free.
Combination, yeah. And in general, just insects love geopathic stress, like ants, bees, ladybugs, wasps. Okay, so an anthill is always on a big crossing, geopathic crossing. So if people have ants in their house and they say, oh yeah, we always have the ants under the bedroom window, or, on a specific spot, this is where the line comes into the house, and then wherever it goes through the house, right? Or wasps in the window. And I mean, I have so many stories on that. Like,
incredible.
I have people from all over the world, from India. I don't even know how they find me. So I had a guy from India call me. He had wasps in his window of his storing place for clothes. He had a big storing facility, and he had always wasps there. And he heard somewhere about geopathic stress. He got one of my house shields, put it up, and I talked to him nearly a year later when he got another one for a friend, and he said, "Yeah, the wasps are gone." So which is a really nice confirmation, because the wasps don't have to understand the complicated system about geopathic. They just respond naturally. Is the energy there? Is it not there? If it's not there, they look for it somewhere else. It's a bit like babies, right? I like babies. Babies respond very natural on that. So if a baby rolls always on one side of the bed, you have this sometimes when parents tuck them in, and an hour later they're on the side of the bed, or they fall out of the bed all the time. They naturally try to get away from geopathic stress. And once you get older, you lose this instinct, and you just take it in and you charge up with that. So you run around with a charge. So there are machines like these advanced biofeedback machines, like this QXCI, for example.
Yeah, we talk about those a lot on this podcast.
They measure geopathic stress, right? Because you have this charge on you. So I have a doctor in Chicago now who found me through a client of his who had geopathic stress. Then he did research, got my tools. Then he went back to the doctor. The doctor said, "Oh, your geopathic stress is gone. What did you do?" and, and then he told him about me. And so now he sends me a lot of people.
Oh, wonderful.
I've never talked to them. They don't know about me. They just put something in which changes the energy of their space.
Well, let's talk about this device that you've created and how it helps mitigate some of this energy and move it so it's beneficial to the human body.
Yeah, what it really, so we have different, if you look at our website, we have like 50, 60 different kind of products for, so it grew
Okay.
over the year. But the base products are 3 or 4 products are the base products. One is for your space, okay, and I brought one here. This is a flat disc made out of a specific type of glass, artificial glass.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are some symbols on, and there is a silver piece built in.
Okay.
This is just the original background for this comes from Germany, German research about 25 years ago. I worked with people there, with Feng Shui researchers, and with a medical doctor who was clairvoyant. And so he could see, he had this type of X-ray vision since childhood. Some people do see energy.
Yeah, they have the gift.
And so they did a lot of research what these different, so there are a lot of different grids. It's not just this 130-foot grid, right? So there are all kind of grids sit into in the middle of each other, and smaller ones, larger ones. But and there are positive ones as well. So there are good ones and bad ones. So it's a whole mixture which creates the matrix of energy around us. But they did research, what is it? What does it look like? How does it work? How can we affect it and counteract it? And so they started to create programs. And this is now is the I think 6th generation of those tools. So, at the beginning they were big pieces, and then they got shrunk and smaller and smaller. So it's not working when I hold it up like this. It has to go on a wall.
Okay.
What it does, it has to go flat on a wall, about a foot down from the ceiling. Should have some empty space, so don't put it above a shelf. So if something stands out beneath it or on top of it, it's diminished in its power, and it creates a microgrid of a maybe quarter of an inch within the house, and overrides the existing bigger grids and just neutralizes them.
Beautiful.
So in a simple version, it just neutralizes all the grids in your house, and it does quite some more things in addition, which came up from the Feng Shui background I have. So there are often, you hear in Feng Shui, if somebody has an irregular shaped floor plan, they're missing areas. You miss your money area, or you miss your relationship bagua. So it helps to balance those out.
I must keep moving into homes where I'm missing the relationship area for the last 10 years.
We could have a look. We could have a look at that. No problem.
Oh my goodness.
Uh, but there's also another interesting aspect which is not written anywhere, which is that the energy field of a living unit, of a house or of an apartment, does not stop at your wall. It goes out, for a house, for example, it goes out 15 feet outside your house. Okay, so this is your energy field you are living in. If you have 2 houses which are now closer than 30 feet apart of each other, these energy fields overlap. Or if you have a condo situation or an apartment situation, you have the energy of your upper neighbor down, the lower neighbor, the left neighbor, the right neighbor, and you feel it, right? It feels different than living in a singular home where you have space around yourself. Feel that, it is what it is.
It is what it is, and we do what we do in these cities. And I'm definitely, I've done a lot to mitigate the energy in my home, and I have some really great stuff in here, like some stuff that's probably similar to things you have in your website, probably not as potent, but definitely like some salt crystals and some good energetic I had someone come in and help me with the alignment of the furniture, and it feels energetically, it does feel, I can feel a dramatic difference from the hallway to into my apartment. It feels very calming, and people who stay here often comment on it, but I'm excited to do more. I
But
would
see,
love to.
no, and that's all good, right? But this is the understanding of feng shui I have now, which is more a bit of a European understanding, right? In Europe, what people do, feng shui got really popular there 20, 30 years ago. Like all the teachers were traveling. I traveled all over the place with Chinese teachers and masters and American ones and Australian ones and all over the place. They all have not, for a while you believe, this is all the information I need. It's not all, it's a slice of it, you know. So if you have a perfect energetic situation and you fix, whatever you fix, you fix a slice of it and it feels definitely better, right? But there are different aspects and schools in feng shui. Some focus with calculations of planets, and other ones with your birthday or the orientation of the house, or how the house is situated on a property and how the chi flows to on the property into the house. So there are these, and they all give us a slice. But the biggest slice of all is when the chi is ruined, which practically comes from the geopathic understanding. If the chi is ruined, number one, it doesn't do me any good if I still flow it through the house because it's not as potent as it could be.
Got it.
And and you can have, and I have stories about that as well. You can have the nicest calculated feng shui with all the numbers they do, number calculations, change every month, change every year, very complicated, very highly acknowledged within feng shui circles because it's so complicated. You can have the nicest numbers. If you have a geopathic grid line running through your bed, you're sick in 5 to 8 years. That's how it is, because it cannot counteract the damage which is done on the other side. So it needs to be looked at in addition to the other good work everybody does. I mean, that's just an additional aspect.
So basically, the simple rule for everyone at home is that if you're not going to address the chi in your house, you're arranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. You got to do it.
The question is if you hit the iceberg or in your house or not, right?
Right.
If there's a difficult situation and the ship is slowly sinking, then definitely yes. But not every house is sinking, So
yeah. Well, I want to give people also a way to, I'm sure people are going to listen to this and want to take action and want to do something. So where would you direct people? Either it's to get in touch with you or your website or other resources.
Yeah. My website is called geopathology.com, geo like in geography, geopathology.com. I do have a lot of information, of studies in there, of explanations for geopathic stress, of articles I wrote about health, about ants, about animals in general, about EMFs. A lot of this information is there. I thought at the earlier when we talked before our podcast here, I have a number of eBooks, but I'm happy to send out my e-workbook, which says, "Is your home affecting your health?" And it's a bit a quiz where you can go through a number of questions, and you find yourself, within those questions, and then there is an answering part which explains why this is not good or what you should do with it. And if people want to send me an email at this point, I will put it. It's in my shop at the moment, but I'm happy to give it out for your listeners and viewers for free. If they just send me an email to Werner with a W at the beginning, WERNER, Werner at geopathology.com, and they put Freddie in the top line.
Yes.
I'll send them the ebook for free, and then they can really find out more. If this might be a problem for them and what they can do to fix that. Because, the one looking for your house is just one. We also have pendants for people to work directly on their body, or we have stickers.
I've got mine on right now. I have it's a beautiful pendant. I'll try to show everybody here.
You have the gold version. Yeah, that's the
I
back.
have the gold with these beautiful geometric shapes on it.
Yeah.
And it's really, I have a bunch of pendants on, but it's a great necklace.
No, that's okay. And the symbols on there are very specifically chosen. So to hold the programming in there again. So it's not just like any symbol or something. These are old biogeometry symbols, which in fact are, some of them are older than mankind, so that's a total different story. So they were chosen for a very specific reason to hold the program in a piece of metal, which is often silver and combinations with gold. And you keep them within maybe half an inch of your body. So they don't have to be on the skin. You don't have to wear them as a pendant even. You just put it in a pocket or in a shirt pocket, and just somewhere close on your body. Or we put things on phones of similar technology with gold stickers, 24-karat gold stickers we put on phones, and they neutralize a lot what comes out of the phone or of your Wi-Fi router. So these are some of the ways to address those issues, because there's no way to escape and run away from them anymore, especially when you live in New York.
Yeah, you've got to do the best you can. You got to do the best you can. And that's what you do. You do it with a smile, and you don't need to add the stress into your health paradigm for sure. It's just, but I think areas of study like the geopathic stress are something that it sounds like a great thing to add to the plate. And you don't hear about it much. I've heard many of the health gurus that I follow, they'll touch on it every once in a while. I hear about it once a year. But I'm glad we have this resource for this audience. Werner, I want to ask you 2 questions before we go that I ask everybody to end the podcast. Beautifully Broken podcast. We have practitioners, obviously. We have a lot of guests that have walked through the fire of health and wellness. And there's that journey. It's like walking through Hades, and they come out the other side, and there's usually a really good lesson. And I just want to ask you, what does it mean to you to be beautifully broken?
Beautifully broken means to me that you learned your life lesson, because you learn from damage and from challenges, right? And you grow on that, and you fix it, and you live on from there. This is what parents do. I have a teenager living with me, or he's 20 soon. And I wish so much I could tell him all those experiences and shorten his own path of falling and stumbling and getting up on his feet again. I think the deeper something has fallen, or the more he was broken, the higher he can rise from there.
I couldn't agree more. And the other thing I want you to do is, if you couldn't just leave the audience with a question for self-examination on something that they could do that they maybe haven't considered yet to upgrade their health and wellness.
Listen into your body. So when you wake up in the morning, the first thing is you listen into your body. You say, am I great? How do I feel? Does anything hurt? If something hurts, you should pay attention. It's not the way to take pain medication. I mean, pain is the first symptom in your body where it says alarm, something is wrong. And so now you take your Advil or whatever it is, and you make it through the day. It's like cutting off the light of your engine oil in your car, right? Which says alarm, there's no oil in your engine. And you're annoyed by that, and so you cut off the cable and keep on driving. I mean, how silly is that? So listen to your own body, and often the more you listen, you get more sensitive. You feel, oh, there's an ache in my belly or in my stomach, or even if you have junk food and you feel afterwards, you feel sick afterwards, and then you play over it, and half an hour later you're okay again. Why do you feel sick in the first place? Maybe it wasn't good to consume something, or listen to your body, and your body will tell you and teach you.
Beautiful. Well, this was such a gift. I imagine us doing this again at some point. I know we could talk about this for 2 or 3 hours and go a little deeper, but this will be a great starting off point for the audience. And I'll put all your website and the ebook and the way to get in contact with you in the show notes. And I just very much thank you for your bringing your area of expertise and such a divine light to this audience. And we just really appreciate you and all the work you're doing.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for doing what you're doing to spread information like this out. And anytime you would like to talk a little more, I'm here.
Amazing. Werner, thank you so much for being a guest. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you made it to the end of the podcast. Now, in a world where the average attention span is less than 10 seconds, we just spent almost an hour together. And I think this is the beginning of something really beautiful. Now, one way to support the podcast is to head over to freddiesetgo.com and check out my newly launched page, Freddie's Faves, where I've linked every 5-star product and healing modality you hear about on the show. Most offer significant discounts by clicking the link. And please know, it doesn't cost you anything extra, and at the same time, they support the show through affiliation. So check out Freddie's Faves on freddiesetgo.com. This episode of the Beautifully Broken podcast was brought to you by our sponsor, Amp Coil, upgrading the vibrations of hearts, minds, and bodies all over the world. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's show, head over to iTunes and leave a 5-star review. Grabbing a download is like giving this virtual thumbs up that we're doing it right. And if you want to connect with me, shoot me a message on Instagram at freddiesetgo.com or at freddiesetgo. That's all for today. Our closing. The world is hurting. We need you at your very best. So take the steps today to always be upgrading, whatever it takes to move the needle. Remember, while life is pain, putting those fractured pieces back together is a beautiful process. I'm your host. I love you. Namaste. Have a wonderful day.